There can be a lot of risks with solo backpacking. You only have yourself to rely on, there's minimal redundancy, and help can be a really long way off. I'm about to spend the next 3 days on a solo backpacking trip. We're going to talk about how I address those things in order to maximize fun and minimize risk while out on the trail alone. I'm heading into some mountainous desert terrain, and I've gotten into some trouble in this type of terrain on past trips. And I know that this 50-kilometer loop that I'm going to be doing it's not a cakewalk. There's some really hard parts and some sketchy sections. So my risk management and decision making is gonna have to really be on point, especially because I am solo. So we're gonna be going over that. And as usual in the desert, water scarcity is gonna be a problem as well. I get asked all the time what I like about solo backpacking because it's the primary way that I get out to the backcountry and go backcountry camping. And there's really 3 reasons why I like it so much. The first one is solitude. When you're out here by yourself, a lot of the time you can get to places where there is no one for tens of miles around you, and that's just a pretty cool feeling, especially in this day and age where there's people everywhere, you're always connected. Getting that solitude is really nice. The second reason is that I like to push my limits, I like to move the needle, and going out solo just adds another level to the trips that I'm on. When you're out with other people, you do have that redundancy, you have that support system. When you're by yourself, you have to make sure everything's really dialed in because you're relying only on yourself. Everything that you need is on your back and in your brain. The third reason is that I'm an introvert, and getting out here by myself recharges me. I love my friends, I love my life, I love everyone in it, but getting out here, spending time just alone, mile after mile, being able to think things through, just really appreciate life, really recharges me. Getting out here really puts a lot of things into perspective, and it gives me a ton of gratitude for the life that I have and the experiences that I get, because when you're out here and all you can do is think, that really all hits home. Got camp all set up, have my tent here. This is the Z-Packs Plex Solo. Because I'm traveling solo, I opted for a 1-person tent, and this tent is insanely lightweight and roomy enough for me inside for 1 person. I have enough room for my sleep system as well as a bunch of gear. There's a lot of headroom and foot room, so I never feel super cramped inside of here. If you're interested in any of the gear that I'm using on this trip, you can check out links in the video description. They'll have everything like my sleep system here, my pack, as well as my cook kit. I'm testing out a new cook system on this trip. This is not normally what I'd go with because it is quite heavy. This is the MSR Wind Burner, but I've used it a few times already and it boils water really quickly and really efficiently. So it could be a good option depending on the trip. So I'm excited to try this out. I wasn't sure what the water situation was going to be like on this trail. I didn't really expect water until day 2, about halfway through. So really excited that there's water at my first campsite here. It's going to make using my backcountry bidet a little bit less frugal. I'm going to be able to get nice and clean down there because I didn't bring any toilet paper on this trip. But a little bit sad because I carried in a ton of water. It was super heavy and that was unnecessary. I just kind of broke my back for no reason. I'm gonna have to be careful because the water here is super silty and I only have 1 filter with me. That's one of those things with traveling solo. You don't have any redundancy, and if my water filter clogs up, then I'm kind of pooched. I got dinner all set up. The sun is starting to set. You can see the shadow kind of creeping over here. Tomorrow should be a really interesting day. We're gonna be continuing down here, getting into some more canyon-like country and potentially going over a pass. I'm not really sure, but I've heard that it's pretty tough, that there's a lot of spots where you can go down the wrong canyon, get lost, and I don't have someone else with me to help double check my navigation, so I'm relying on myself for that, so we'll talk about that. And we'll also get into a little bit more some of the gear that I'm using on this trip. Because I am solo, I need gear that's gonna be reliable because I don't have any sort of redundancy. We already kind of touched on that a little bit with the water system, but I'm gonna get into it a little bit more with all the other gear that I brought with me.
It's super windy. The windiest probably it's ever been when I've been out in the tent. It's definitely keeping me up and not allowing me to go to sleep. So I'm going to be pretty tired tomorrow, which I'm not looking forward to. Oh, come on, wind, just die down a little bit for the last bit of the night so I can get some sleep, please.
Good morning. Last night was super windy, probably the windiest conditions I've ever slept in a tent in. There's sand blowing in, the tent was shaking. I did not get a great night's sleep, but I'm up now and I'm gonna get the tent and everything all taken down because it looks like there might be a storm rolling in over there, which was not in the forecast at all, which is kind of unfortunate because I realized I did not bring a pack liner, which is a rookie mistake. I always bring a pack liner. So what I'm gonna try and do is figure something out in order to keep my sleep system and clothing dry because I do not want to be getting all that wet because that basically ruined the trip. So my plan here is to use my food bag, which is waterproof, unload everything from here, and then just load my sleep system and all my clothing into it in order to keep it all dry. Across the creek there, that wasn't smooth, but I made it across because I want to try and find a shelter area to eat breakfast. I haven't eaten breakfast yet, and it's starting to get to me. My brain is a little bit foggy, but I think maybe in this little wash here, I might be able to find just a little nook to kind of hunker down in, out of the wind, eat breakfast before the rain hits. After some breakfast, I'm feeling a lot better. Oh, that was kind of a little bit of a panic there as I woke up, and it was insane wind everywhere, and then seeing the storm roll in. But found a little sheltered spot here, had breakfast, feeling good. Really disappointed myself about that pack liner. That's something where if I was with someone else, it wouldn't be an issue because we just take all of our gear that needed to stay dry, stick it in their pack liner, and then I'd take things like their food kit and their cook system, and it'd be no problem. But yeah, luckily my food bag is a dry bag, so I was able to transfer everything in there because the storm still looks like it's gonna roll in. It's hard to say. I might be in like on the lee side of the mountains here where it's raining on the other side, and then I'm just kind of in this, I don't know if it's called a rain shadow. You guys let me know. But it's time to do something that is pretty much a solo activity, and that's go have number 2. You may notice that for the last while we are following a road that's an off-highway vehicle road that they share with hikers and backpackers, but I didn't see any vehicles. I haven't seen any other people since the first couple kilometers where I passed a group coming in. So this is a remote trail that doesn't get frequented very often, and that definitely factors into my risk management and decision making on this trip. I never want to be putting myself or other people at risk, but accidents do happen, and when there's other people on trail, if it's a busy trail, then you have a lot more margin for error, and you have those people to help you out in case of that accident. It looks like those storm clouds blew around us, which is awesome. Just blue skies for the rest of the day. I wasn't mentally prepared for this intense wind as well as rain, it would have really just knocked my morale right down. And that's something that when you're alone can be a bit of a challenge for a lot of people, myself included. And that's that you only really have yourself to kind of tell yourself, you know what, it'll be okay, we'll get through this. Because those things can really start stacking up with the wind, the rain, not having a pack liner. That would have really started eating away at my morale. And I don't have someone here to tell me a joke, pick me up. And that's something that I really realized was out on the Great Divide Trail, was when you're all alone and you only got yourself, you really have to be nice to yourself. Water is one of the crucial things when you're out here. So because of that, and because I'm alone, I wanted to bring a filter that I know is going to perform. I've had filters clog up on me or slow down, whereas the Platypus Quick Draw, I've used this for hundreds and hundreds of liters and it's still going strong. I can rely on this. And when you're out here alone, you want to be able to rely on your gear. I'm going to make sure to back flush my filter really well after filtering this super silty water. I don't want to leave that silt in there to harden up and then clog the filter. I'll probably do a back flush after each liter just to really be safe. That's some silty water in there. So I just realized I was heading down the wrong canyon. I was going the wrong direction. And when you're solo, that can be really easy, and sometimes you're just in your head thinking and you go down the wrong way. But luckily, I have my second person here to help me out, and that's my watch. It gave me an off-course notification, so I was able to turn around, come back here. I'm pretty sure this is where I went wrong. It's either I have to go up here and then over this little ridge here, or I'm supposed to be one canyon over down that way. I'm not quite sure. We'll have to figure it out, and just me, myself, and I to do so. So me and my watch were right. We had to come up and over this ridge in order to get onto this plains area. We're gonna be heading across it to the high point and then heading down elevation for the next day and a half basically, and getting into some really beautiful canyons. I saved the most beautiful part of the trip for day 2, but it might be the hardest. I've heard that it's really technical, some scrambly areas, as well as people are saying there's a 10-foot drop that you either have to climb down or jump off of, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm afraid of heights. So yeah, let's hit this and walk across this beautiful plain. Silty, tanniny. Looking at this in front of me, I'm not sure where I'm going. I'm still gaining elevation. Might go down that way, might go up that way. Not looking forward to the gain in elevation either way. So we came from down there. Looks like we're gonna be heading up over that pass right there. It's gonna be a slog. Getting a little worried as we're gaining elevation here because I'm in the second half of the day and I'm at an elevation where there's snow sticking to north facing slopes, and that's where I'm heading. So hopefully no snow. Plus my sleep system is only really good down to about 40, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So if it's getting sub-freezing tight, I'm gonna be in for a really miserable time. So that pass right there is 1,500 meters, and we started pretty much down, you can see that valley down there, that's below sea level. So gained a lot of elevation, and hopefully now that we're on the other side of the pass, we can lose it really quickly and get down to warmer elevations. Check this out. So I'm pretty sure that's where we're headed, down into that canyon. That's what we're gonna be going through tomorrow. I think we're gonna camp somewhere at that junction, that confluence of a few different tributaries there. And then tomorrow should be sick. That looks like an amazing canyon. Really excited for that. But it also looks a little sketchy. Made to camp, just rehydrating. That was a tough day. Over 20 kilometers, a lot of elevation, a lot of bushwhacking. That was tough. Glad to be at camp, and this is a pretty nice camp. Hopefully the wind doesn't cause as many troubles as it did last night. I have a nice windbreak here, and the water is phenomenal here. It's just clear. It's the perfect temperature. The next order of business is to just pound water, rehydrate. I was pretty bad with my hydration today. If I had someone else with me, if it wasn't solo, they probably could have said, "Hey Justin, you're not hydrating enough." But I had no excuses. We ended up dropping a lot of elevation down to below 1,000 meters, so that's good. Hopefully it's a little bit warmer down here, especially with that bit of shelter. Tomorrow we're gonna be heading that way, down that canyon, and I'm really looking forward to it. I didn't get a great night's sleep last night, so hopefully I'm able to tonight. Get camp all set up here, stay hydrated, eat a good meal, and then hit the hay probably pretty early. It's 4 o'clock right now, and I'll probably be in bed by 7. Good morning. I woke up to it raining pretty hard. I don't mind rain most of the time, but in the morning it's just a bit of a pain in the butt because you're trying to pack up, get ready, and everything's getting soaking wet. So I might have to eat breakfast in here, kind of do everything that I can inside the tent. Peeing and going to the bathroom is probably my #1 struggle right now. I really have to pee, as you do when you wake up in the morning. So I might just go into the vestibule right there, pee in the corner. Everything else I can do from the dryness of my tent, so I need to get all packed up and then eat my breakfast as well. What I'm kind of worried about with this rain is what the canyon's gonna be like. I don't know from experience, but I know from seeing other people's experiences that you don't necessarily want to be going into a narrow slot canyon during heavy rain. So we're gonna take a look at the creek here, see what it's doing, and play it by ear. You can see a good example of why I wanted to drop elevation quickly. It got down to about 5 degrees Celsius last night, but you can see just in those hills right there, there's snow. So just probably 300 meters higher and I would have been in sub-freezing conditions. It stopped raining a little bit here, so I'm gonna take advantage of this window to go #2 and get my day going. The creek doesn't look to be flowing too strongly, so I feel pretty good about heading into the canyon, especially since it's stopped raining now. So while the rain isn't making the water flow through the canyon much of a risk, all the rocks are gonna be a lot more slippery, so that's gonna be a risk that I'm gonna have to manage. I imagine as we get in there and it tightens up a little bit, there's gonna be some minor rock scrambling, and then there's that cliff that I mentioned earlier. If that's slick due to the rain, that could be a bit of an obstacle for us. We'll see how it goes once we get there. But today I'll go over all of my risk management strategies with you, how I make decisions while I'm out here, especially in light of being solo. So we hit a cliff. I don't think this is the cliff, but these are some of the obstacles we're gonna start encountering. Basically, when I get to a spot like this, I'm gonna be taking my time, really analyzing all of my options, because usually there's an easy option. So I'm looking at, can I go backwards and then go up over that way, or maybe just head right to the right there. I have to go check that out, but definitely not just dropping down right here. So I think I'm just gonna store my trekking poles, climb down here. If I was coming up, I'd probably just climb right up that right there, but this looks like the easier option. But like I said, slippery rocks is gonna make this a lot more of a challenge and more dangerous. It looks like there's another route that comes down through here. Could have been easier, but with the slippery rocks, that may have actually been a little bit sketchier as opposed to where I came down through here, where the rocks were we're dry, surprisingly. It's important to be aware of when you're in situations like that and making good decisions, because that's not always the case. This morning, I'm fresh. I just had a really good night's sleep. I had breakfast. My brain is functioning at 100%. But I've been in situations where it's not. I've been dehydrated, it's the end of the day and I'm tired, and I kind of just blindly go, and I've ended up in some pretty sketchy scenarios because of that. Luckily, nothing that's ended up in injury, but it's not a situation that you want to get into. So when you are hitting a spot like that and you are fresh, get into the habit of being aware that you're stopping, you're assessing the different options, and then you're making the decision, because you want that to be almost muscle memory. You want it to be a habit to stop and assess, as opposed to just blindly going, so that even when you're tired, you can still make good decisions. The two big factors with risk management are likelihood of something happening and then the consequences if that thing does happen. And whether you know it or not, you're always balancing those two factors. But when I'm solo, the balance of those two things shifts. I tend to go for very low consequence things, even if the likelihood of it happening are much greater, because if I need to self-rescue or call for help, then it's more likely to happen if the consequences of that risk are lower. But if I'm with other people, then I might let the consequences go a little bit higher compared to the likelihood of it happening, because I'll have other people with me that can stabilize me until help comes, or call for help if I'm unconscious or something like that. That's not to say that my risk tolerance goes up when I'm with other people. It's still very low, but if I can avoid rolling an ankle by adjusting that balance between consequence and likelihood, then I'm gonna make that change. We just got out of the canyon. Pretty risk-free. That was a good trip. If you want some tips on how to backpack, then go check out this video right up here. Things like what to pack, what to eat, and figuring out places to go. That's the number one question I get from people is, how do you find places to go? Where do you know where you can go? And that video addresses all those questions.